Microphone, get over here. Hello friends, Ash here with Gents. How are you? Time to play a little bit of like fragrance bingo. So today what I'm gonna be doing is going through 15 different fragrances that I feel like all of you should have smelled at least once. Now, I'm not saying that you need to own all of these or anything like that, but you should be familiar with these. You need to store it up here in the memory banks, the fragrance memory banks. So 15 different fragrances that you need to have tried. So as I go through these, you're gonna need to mark off mentally if you have tried them or not. And if you haven't, the next time you're in a fragrance store, look for the ones that you haven't tried. Expand your fragrance knowledge, open up your third eye. So let's jump into it, guys. Let's check them out. I will have each of these linked in the description below. Feel free to check them out down there. And also, I want to remind you, maxaroma.com, twistedlily.com, Gents10, 10% off your order. Use it. Use the code. Save the money. LuckyScent.com through the end of June. Gents 2023, 10% off your order. So Avant-Garde, Ashton 20, 20% off your order. All right, friends, let's jump into it. You should recognize most, if not all, of these fragrances. All right, let's kick it off with two of the most obvious fragrances known to man. The first one, Dior Sauvage Eau de Toilette. Countless lovers and many haters of this one. Bergamot, lavender, and Broxen, some of the notes in the fragrance. It has this metallic opening that is a little bit loved or hated, but 99% of people seem to love it. Huge compliment puller, massively versatile, and also with massive performance. This stuff off my skin, apocalyptic. It projects forever, it lasts an eternity. And actually, when this fragrance was new, I got in a little trouble wearing it to the office. I sprayed it on a bit too much. I may or may not have caused some old ladies to have a conniption in a bad way. Although some people out there, I'm sure, have had old ladies have a good conniption with Sauvage, but that's for a different video. So yeah, Dior Sauvage, ultimately versatile, the top selling fragrance in the United States right now. So the most popular, it's basically everywhere. But that's not the only one that you need to smell when it comes to blue fragrances to be on the up and up. No, you also need to know about Bleu de Chanel from Chanel, which is the second best-selling fragrance in the United States. So blue fragrance is still, as of right now, dominating the charts. This one has grapefruit, incense, and cedar, and this is the Eau de Parfum version of Bleu de Chanel. This is the version that most people seem to gravitate toward, the most popular of the line right now. And I would say the versatility of this fragrance is just about as good as you're ever gonna find in a fragrance, period. Year-round, daytime, nighttime, formal, business, casual, date, it does it all. So this one, just like Sauvage, another massive compliment puller, and you need to know about Bleu de Chanel. But you also need to know about this. AVENTUS. Yeah. I still like AVENTUS. I like the way it smells. It's just, man, AVENTUS is one of those fragrances that it wears you down. Just because there are so many iterations of AVENTUS out there, and what can you say? It's crazy popular. So even if you haven't smelled AVENTUS, you may have smelled something else that smells similar to AVENTUS. Something like Mont Blanc Explorer, Club de Nuit Intense Man, or even a niche fragrance. Something like Citra Boisé from Mancera gets compared to AVENTUS, even though I don't think that one's super close to AVENTUS at all. But yeah, you have to know about this one. You have to smell this one. You got to know what the hype is about, because AVENTUS, if you stick around the fragrance world at all, if you read articles, go to forums, watch videos, you will hear about this fragrance over and over and over. So you got to know what the hype is about. Depending on your batch of AVENTUS, it may be more fruity leaning, which means it'll have a little more pineapple in the opening, more bergamot, or it could be smokier and have more birch as the fragrance dries down. Batch variations with AVENTUS is a whole thing. You can dive down that rabbit hole if you want, but for now we're moving on. Next up, Terre d'Hermès from Hermès. This is the original Eau de Toilette. I love the new release, Eau Givre. I think that one is really, really good, but this is where it all started. So if I were gonna point you to one Terre d'Hermès that you should smell, it would be the original. And Terre d'Hermès is, at least for a very classic at this point men's fragrance, a bit divisive, more so than Bleu de Chanel or Creed AVENTUS, because Terre d'Hermès does have a little earthiness to it. It's got this flintiness. The orange in the opening has a little earthy, dirty aspect to it. And then it has a good amount of vetiver as the fragrance dries down. Now, I think it smells great, but some people do not like that earthy aspect, that flinty aspect to the fragrance. And so for them, the original is not the best. For them, they prefer something like Eau Givre or Eau Très Fraîche. But as I said, if you're gonna smell just one, you gotta smell the original, see where it started. Okay, another massive release, Oud Wood from Tom Ford. Oud rosewood, sandalwood, some of the notes in the fragrance, a lot of woods. And this one was actually done by perfumer Richard Herpin, which is a friend of mine, which makes me even more partial to Oud Wood, yeah. And this is another one like Creed Aventus, that there are lots of fragrances out there that are kind of copying the style of this one. And some people may be partial to those newer iterations on the common DNA. And some of them are really, 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 really good. But in keeping with the theme here, Oud Wood, the OG, this one you need to smell. And it still is, to this day, one of the best fragrances in the Tom Ford Private Blend line. Then we will follow that up with Jazz Club from Maison Martin Margiela. Rum, tobacco, vanilla. This one is boozy, sweet, warm. A compliment puller once again, kind of an intoxicating, alluring scent profile to this one. And it's one that seems to just grow in terms of popularity year over year. It's another wonderful fragrance for fall and winter time, a standout from the line. Maison Martin Margiela does have some very solid fragrances. I like Whispers in the Library, By the Fireplace, and a number of others. Some of the scents in the line, not too great, but Jazz Club, this one, just year over year, people fall in love with it. Okay, after that, we'll do another fall winter time scent, Spice Bomb, Viktor and Rolf. Now, yes, I do like Spice Bomb Extreme more than the original Spice Bomb. Personally, I think that one's a little bit better. It evolves the scent profile here and just tightens it up, smooths it out, and adds a nice little sweetness from the vanilla. And yes, Spice Bomb, the line has kind of gone different directions nowadays. Spice Bomb Infrared, you got the EDT and EDP versions of that. I haven't smelled the EDP version just yet. Then you had Night Vision, which is something completely different than this. But still, Spice Bomb, a very important release in men's fragrances. And it is a fragrance that puts, as you would expect, spice right at the forefront. This nice blast, aggressive blast of sweet and spicy spices. Great staying power, great projection, and another big compliment puller. Spice Bomb is one that I think everybody needs to be aware of. Let's hop back to Tom Ford, and this fragrance technically marketed toward women, but lots of guys wear it. It is Black Orchid. Now, as I said, Black Orchid marketed technically toward women. It's the only fragrance in this list that is technically a ladies fragrance, but really it's more of a unisex scent, and it does have a very bold scent profile to it. So absolutely not going to be as easy to wear as Bleu de Chanel, Sauvage, or Spice Bomb. This one has Orchid, of course. It's got ylang ylang, it has truffle, chocolate, patchouli. It's thick, it's dark, it's heavy, it's powdery. You have to have confidence pulling this off. But for those that can, this can really set you apart from what everybody else is wearing. And at the least, you should know how Black Orchid smells. Now, if you are just getting into fragrances, I do not expect that you would smell Black Orchid and be like, oh yeah, I can pull this off easy. But for more seasoned fragrance veterans, if you want to call it that, that's a really eye-opening scent. Okay, let's go back to something easier to wear. Dolce & Gabbana's The One. This is the Eau de Toilette, and the Eau de Parfum version of this, I think, is better, personally. Just like Spice Bomb Extreme, I think is better than Spice Bomb. I think the One Eau de Parfum is better than the One Eau de Toilette. Now, of course, there will be people out there that think the EDT is better than the EDP, of course, all personal preference. This one is much more affordable at discounters, and it is the OG, which is why I highlight it here. This is a great date night fragrance. It smells inviting and sexy. One of my most complimented fragrances, actually. I used to wear the One EDT quite a lot when it first came out, and people loved it. The knock on this one has always been the performance. It's not great. But for a date night fragrance, as I've said ad nauseum, as well as other people have said this, sometimes with the date night fragrance, you do want a fragrance that's not too strong and overwhelming. You don't want to come across like a mega douche. Okay, let's keep it up with Paco Rabanne's 1 million. Warm spices, sweet spices, a little bit of citrus in there. That one is kind of a clubbing scent. That's what it gets pigeonholed as, but really, because it does have such an appeal, you can wear it many more places than just a club or a bar. And actually 1 million off skin can oftentimes come across a lot more elegant than you would expect. Yes, it's attention grabbing. And yes, it's got a sweetness to it. And yes, when you look at the bottle, it looks tacky and cheesy. But for a lot of people, they swear by 1 million that this has a great just wearability to it, that it doesn't go too crazy with the sweetness off their skin, and is a wonderful day-to-day scent. Let's go with another warm, sexy, spicy fragrance. One with a great vanilla note to it, a little citrus in there, mixing together with those spices and sweets. It is Parfums de Marly LAYTON. When you're talking about the hierarchy of men's niche fragrances that just about everybody should smell, seems like AVENTUS is 1A and LAYTON is 1B. Like, they're the two biggest names, so you gotta check them both out. And LAYTON is one of those niche fragrances that has like designer sensibilities to it. So it has good quality, higher quality than your typical designer fragrance. And it does have that further exclusivity that a niche fragrance is going to have. But when you smell it, you're like, oh, this is done very much in a designer style. And by that, I mean it's made to be worn, made to be used on a day-to-day basis. There are so many niche fragrances and indie fragrances out there that have like a unique touch to them, and you go, wow, this is really different. Doesn't smell like too much else out there. And then you'll wear it like once a year. So the bottle that you bought for whatever, $300, while it does have a unique touch to it, you're gonna never in 3 or 4 lifetimes go through that bottle because you just don't wear the stuff. LAYTON, you wear, and it is made to be worn. And for what it's worth, it's actually, in my opinion, more difficult to come up with a fragrance that is very wearable, very versatile, and very mass appealing, that does its own thing to an extent. Like, it's a lot easier to come up with something crazy unique when you're not caring about wearability. Like, if you just go, I'm gonna do something that's never been done before, and then you do that, but it's completely unwearable, like, that's a little easier to do than what I mentioned before. Okay, let's keep it moving. VERSACE Pour Homme. Ooh, so fresh. Very uplifting, brisk, citrus, white florals, very clean in the dry down as well as the opening. A little bit similar to L'Homme Sport and Missoni Wave, but of the three, I'd say this is the freshest. So if you're looking for just like the freshest of the fresh, VERSACE Pour Homme. Great office fragrance, great spring, summer, daytime scent as well. Just a lovely, everyday wear kind of scent. And I know Versace Eros much more popular than this one, but I would say check this out. This could be a great day-to-day summer fragrance. It was for me for a long time. Next one, Dior Homme Intense. It's really good. I like it a lot. Iris, Cedar, and Brett, some of the notes in the fragrance. Another one, kind of like Black Orchid, that if you're just getting into fragrances, you might smell this and be like, dude, there's no way that I could pull it off. And yes, it is much more of a niche scent than a lot of these other designers. And when I say niche, I mean niche usage. Like, it's not as versatile. But in cool weather or formal situations, that is just top of the top. And if you love Iris, you gotta check it out. We will follow that up with Cool Water. Just cheap, good old Cool Water. Green notes, kind of a mintiness to it. Obviously an aquatic flair. Smells similar to Green Irish Tweed from Creed, only much more affordable. And it was done by the same perfumer. And actually, funny story about Cool Water. I was speaking to someone in the know about this scent and was told that Pierre Bourdon actually had this done for a while. He did Green Irish Tweed for Creed and then did Cool Water, and he was trying to find a fragrance house to release it. And he went to numerous fragrance houses and they all turned him down. Like, all the larger fragrance houses he went to were like, no, we're not interested, including Hermes. Actually, they turned Pierre Bourdon down. And then Davidoff said yes. And look, Cool Water's still around. decades later. And I'm sure Davidoff is like, yes. Last fragrance, Acqua di Gio Profumo from Giorgio Armani. This is Acqua di Gio modernized, given a nice incense touch, which does give it more wearability and versatility. When you're talking the fragrance community, seems like Profumo is the most loved of the Acqua di Gios. And I would say maybe just start with the original Acqua di Gio if you've smelled none of them. That way you see where the fragrance line started, the DNA and everything like that. But I think a lot of people nowadays would probably rather go with Profundo or Profumo because they are, as I just said, a little bit more modern than the original Acqua di Gio, a little easier to wear nowadays. So really either one, Profumo, Profundo, but I'm highlighting Profumo here because the additional incense in there I think gives it more year-round wearability because it just gives it that little boost for fall and winter time if you want to wear an Acqua di Gio. There we go, 15 fragrances you need to try, you need to know, you need to have smelled. Thank you all for hanging with me. Stay safe out there and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you all later.